Hello and welcome to Stronger Together, the series from Microsoft for Startups, where we interview leaders from startups to discuss how they're addressing the challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm David Smith. I'm a cloud advocate for Microsoft. And today we're joined by Roger Noble, founder and CEO of Zegami. Thanks for being here, Roger.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, as we're recording this here in late April 2020, COVID-19 is still quite active in many parts of the world. Now, where are you and how are you doing?
So I'm based in the UK, just outside of Oxford. And I'm doing well, fine, thanks. I think it's been an interesting time for us and for everyone, really. But in general, knock on wood that, we're all safe and healthy at the moment. The team's doing well. Transitioning to working from home has gone quite smoothly. It's
really
interesting
great to hear.
times.
It's certainly new times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about your background and how Zegami got started.
My background is in software, and so my background is a software engineer, and worked for many years developing a lot of sort of .NET based applications. But then I moved more into the business intelligence and sort of data visualization world. So worked very much on the Microsoft stack for a number of years, advising sort of my clients and customers on best practices around creating data warehouses and reporting systems using, reporting services back then, but also Power BI. Mm-hmm. But it was really kind of a fascination that I had with data visualization that kind of led me into Zegami and to where we are today. There was a tool that was released as part of the Silverlight framework called Pivot Viewer, which was a visualization control that you could use and as part of the the Silverlight framework, where you could not only visualize sort of data points in a really unique way, but you could also visualize images and other sort of forms of unstructured data, and then sort of explore and discover patterns and insights in those types of data sets in a way that you couldn't with any other tools. Mm-hmm. And so I guess building upon some of those concepts and ideas, put together a web-based data visualization tool that could let you pull in lots of images and then sort of understand different patterns and relationships visually, rather than just relying on kind of trying to aggregate, things numerically. So it's very much an unstructured data tool rather than a traditional data tool. And that kind of work led to forming a relationship with some researchers here in Oxford. I was living in Australia at the time, and we collaborated on a project to help them better understand the images that they were generating through these automated high-throughput microscopy systems. So they had microscopes that were generating tens of thousands of images of cells and little organoids and all sorts of other kind of biological type things. But they were really wanting to, they're really struggling to work with and sort of get, find those potential problems and issues in those image-based data sets. They were either manually, like literally looking at every single image one by one, or they just had to do a subsample and say, look, of the 20,000 I have, I've looked at 200. They look good, so I'm assuming that the rest is good too. Right. So obviously, then if you're then training machine learning models based on these sort of image-based data sets, where there is that one or two issues that could bias the model in some way, or potentially cause the model to be not as robust because that training data has a bit of a fundamental flaw. It's really difficult to identify and find those problems in your resulting models. And so that's sort of where Zegami comes in with this perfect tool to help you build and curate better training data sets for machine learning models.
Okay, and that tool you now sell as Zegami?
Yes, yep. Oh. So we are a cloud-based platform that allows you to sort of ingest data and visualize it in a simple way. And so, yeah, we've sort of been slowly developing that now over the last 4 years since we spun out from the University of Oxford.
Right. And to this day, has the main application been in healthcare like you were talking about, or are there other applications as well?
Other applications that we've been working on, but I think we've sort of really found that our sweet spot is in the scientific and sort of medical imaging side of things. But no, we've got customers that use it for helping to manage students in schools, for managing assets and for managing people. So it is quite a unique way of looking at any kind of data points and to intuitively spot patterns and trends in data without necessarily needing to know how to write complex database queries or, just allows you to explore those sort of data sets.
Right. That's really, really cool. Now I know Zegami has been part of the Microsoft for Startups program. So what kind of impact has that had on you, and how's it helped?
It's been a massive help, actually. It's not only provided us with a great support in terms of getting Zegami up and running in Azure. So where, Zegami runs in Azure on the Azure Kubernetes service. But not only that, it's also given us a greater access to a large sort of customer base. So we've been involved in quite a lot of events now through the Microsoft for Startups program, through the Ignite series, I believe it was. There's sort of a series of events all around the UK and Europe that we've been able to participate in. But also it's given us greater access to some of the healthcare teams as well within Microsoft, and also as well as the technical support site's been really valuable for us. So yeah, sort of lots of different aspects and facets has been really helpful. Yeah.
That's great. So the reason why we wanted to have you on today was because I heard that Zegami has responded to this COVID-19 crisis. So I'd like to hear a little bit about that story. Can you tell us how that got started, how you changed, and what Zegami has done to respond?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's a global challenge, and I really feel like everybody has a part to play, even if they aren't able to directly work to help people, say in their healthcare setting. That there is an opportunity for everyone to help out in some small way. And so we're just sort of brainstorming about what can we do and what is it about Zegami that is unique that can, make a difference at least in a small way to us helping to kind of figure out how to, get past this whole thing and move on. And it was sort of through that work, we looked at a few different avenues. One was there's a really large data set that's been released of academic papers referencing COVID. And so in one instance, we thought we could visualize all those documents. I think there was, 40,000 or 50,000 or so. We could run some NLP over those. We could sort of start to cluster documents based on themes and sort of similarity. We thought that could be a really neat way to sort of start to identify if there's a kind of a particular trend or a particular theme that was sort of trending in all these documents. But we sort of really found that probably didn't really play to our strengths, although we could do it. It didn't really highlight, and there are other tools that could probably do the same or better than Zegami. So we actually handed that off to another company that we partner with that specializes in natural language processing, and they've already been making a big difference on that front. The other thing we came across, though, was a large-ish a collection of chest Xray images that are being collected by a postdoc researcher based in Canada.
So these are people with COVID-19 we have chest X-rays of.
That's right, yeah. Right. And he was sort of, asking for people to contribute to his data set. It was one that he's published up on GitHub, and just sort of saying, look, if you've got other examples, send them in. Let's build up the world's best sort of collection of COVID-19 X-rays. Yeah. So we thought, well, this is great. I mean, not only can we help visualize them, but really we want to help, focus his efforts to help, raise awareness that, if there is anyone else that can contribute to this data set, then we'd like to, I guess, help out in some way.
Right.
And so in the first instance, we just grabbed all the images that were in that GitHub repo and put them in Zegami just to at least visualize them and get a sense for it. What we did next, though, is we just thought, well, we might as well see if and sort of see if it's actually possible to train a machine learning model that can actually classify different types of conditions just by looking at these chest X-rays. And so one of our data scientists, Doug, spent some time, built up a simple kind of neural network-based machine learning model to see if we could classify, healthy versus COVID lungs, as well as viral and bacterial pneumonia sort of chest X-rays that we'd also sourced from, I think it was a Kaggle competition that has a bunch of X-rays as well.
Yeah.
And what we found was that actually, you can to some degree differentiate, or a machine learning model can differentiate between these different types of chest-related sort of problems. And so it's just an interesting experiment to go, okay, well, there's something here. There's something interesting that you can use machine learning for.
So let me get this straight. You can take an X-ray image of somebody's chest,
Yep.
give it to this algorithm,
Yep.
and it will then tell you, just based on that image, whether it's clear, whether it's COVID-19, or whether it's something else.
Yes. So there's a big caveat on that, of course. But
Okay.
Yes. In its simplest form, with sort of about a 70% accuracy, we can say that it is COVID or not COVID.
Right. So how do you think this might be used? I mean, what kind of impact could this have?
I think ultimately, I think it's pretty fair to say that machine learning and sort of general artificial intelligence is going to grow in usage across the medical profession at all levels, from the kind of the preclinical research stages to the actual coalface with doctors. But I think the way we see it working is that it's sort of an assistive tool that can really augment what doctors are already, and radiologists and that are already doing. And it can really just help improve efficiencies, especially at the moment. I can't imagine what it must be like, practicing in a hospital where it must be just, they must be so busy, so time poor. And we also know, there's waiting times are just, increasing all the time.
Yeah.
And so that's where I really see that artificial intelligence and these sort of machine learning models can really just help make the whole process more efficient, and really make sure that these people are seeing the right kind of data at the right time, and also making sure that they just don't miss things more than anything. So it might just flag something to say, look, we think with 70% accuracy this lung has COVID, and then it's the radiologist that can actually make the decision, go, yes, based on my knowledge and expertise, I think this model is correct, or because I understand how the model works. And this is, I think, the important thing is, if we have an explainable model based on my knowledge, I can and I can understand the way the model works and go, yes, I don't believe this model for these reasons.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, how long does it take a radiologist to interpret an X-ray versus the algorithm doing it? Because I guess the faster you get diagnosed and get treatment, the better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to be waiting for a long time, especially if you're in, pretty urgent need of care for a radiologist to get back to you. I mean, the model is, milliseconds, of course, to inference.
Right.
So that's super quick. A radiologist, I don't know, to be honest. I haven't benchmarked those, but I would assume it would be a bit slower than that.
Yeah, but they're definitely overstressed in hospitals. I mean, having just seen some of the news about that, I think anything we can do to help is amazing.
Absolutely.
Have you got any stories about kind of what you've done in this response, or how Zegami's helped through this process?
Yeah, I think that's just one example of how Zegami could be used, and really we want to sort of highlight the overall workflow, and that actually Zegami is super useful to find these kinds of data problems and help create better training data sets, and that's really the only way that we can improve that accuracy of that model.
Right, because the data is just crucial to any machine learning model, right?
Yeah, right. And because this is a crowdsourced data set, there's all sorts of stuff that could get in there. And already we noticed that there's a lot of variation in inconsistencies between these X-rays. And so that it's something that then if you can see and highlight those inconsistencies, you can then use that when you're, when you're training and when you're pulling together your training data set.
Yeah.
But, other ways that we're helping as well is we really want to make sure that we're able to help research as much as possible to do these things, which is why we've launched a grants program.
Wow.
So that any other researchers that are doing COVID-19 related work are able to get access to the full, version of Zegami for free, so that they can do that. So that's another way that we thought we could just help by giving away licenses to Zegami.
That's really, really great. It's just going to get in the hands of so many more people that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the technical side of this a bit. I mean, this happened really suddenly, had to move quickly to get this data and build this model. So tell me about some of the engineering challenges you had to overcome to get to where you are now.
There's been a few. Actually, most of them have been more on just the challenges with getting a team set up to be working from home and all working remotely together. So
before this, you all worked together in an office, and now you're all at home? Yeah.
That's right, yeah. So we've always had a work from home policy that a lot of people take up, but it's never been full time before. And what we found is that not everybody has access to, really fast internet, for example. So we've had to overcome a few of those kind of like technical problems. We've increased, obviously the use of video calls like this. We use a lot of Teams, use a lot of Zoom, use a lot of, other systems. And not everyone has got, video cameras that are, that really work. So there's been those kinds of technical challenges, which I think have been the hardest. The slow internet has then been another problem again, in that, if we're downloading large amounts of images, I mean, part of the problem with working with images and sort of generally unstructured data is that they're really, they're really big files. They're really hard to move around. There's lots of them. They're hard to process. And so that's just in itself proved a challenge. Like how do I download, half a terabyte of images and then process them on my little laptop? So we've been, making use of the cloud, of course, and upskilling our team. We've been using a lot more sort of virtualized workstations in the cloud, and I think that those are the main ones really, because a lot of the rest of it is a bit of just our bread and butter. It's our day-to-day. We're quite familiar and used to moving around data in the cloud, of working and processing images, doing the machine learning. I mean, that part has been fairly straightforward.
Okay. You mentioned virtualized workstations in the cloud. What does that mean, and how does that help?
So we're developing a number of additional applications to help people annotate their images and their data sets. And because we're not all sort of based in the same office, it's been a little bit difficult to kind of get everyone around and using those tools, especially because we've got people that run multiple operating systems. And so then we've needed to create or sort of, launch VMs in the cloud, so that our, say, Mac users can log in and use some of those apps. So that's part of what's been a little bit tricky, sort of virtualizing the infrastructure that we had, so that it can be available to everyone. Yeah,
and you've just been able to do that in just a few weeks.
Yeah. I mean, we're pretty pretty cloud savvy, so yeah.
That's great.
It hasn't been a problem.
Yeah. So looking forward, I mean, beyond sort of the obvious short-term changes that you're dealing with right now, how do you think this pandemic is going to change your business in the long term?
I think it's going to be on multiple fronts, really. I suspect after this, everyone's going to be a lot more comfortable working from home, for example. to be honest, it makes you question the value of even having a physical office. We've all managed to, cope quite well to the changes. And so sort of, on sort of more the operational side of things, I think it's going to raise a lot more questions, and whether we, downscale things that we don't need anymore, because, beforehand they seem super important to have, something physical like an office or a chair, but, maybe we don't need that anymore. So it's allowed us to sort of question things in a new way. I think it's also going to change the way that we interact with our customers as well.
Yeah.
Again, we had a bias towards organising in-person meetings for everything, but I think now everyone's a lot more comfortable with, having meetings like we are now over the web. So it's going to make just a difference to those kinds of levels of interactions more than anything. But then again, I think it's also sort of started to force the question around, well, do we need to have, do we need to own our own services and infrastructure, and do we need to keep everything locally? Is the cloud a more viable option now? And can we start to store data in the cloud? Because then it makes it so much easier for us all to collaborate. And I'm not talking about us, but our customers.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's, again, going to be another big benefit for us. In that, once data's in the cloud, we're already processing in the cloud, and it's obviously, it's best to move your processing as close as possible to the data and where it is. Yeah. That's the most efficient. And so the more customers that we have that are more comfortable with storing their data in the cloud, I think that's going to be better all round.
Yeah, and I guess you're saying because we're all experiencing this together, our perspectives are all changing at the same time. So,
right, yeah, that's true. Yeah, previously, we're a small startup, so we're quite used to being, agile and working in the cloud. For example, we have, we're completely Office 365 and all of that. But I guess it's sort of helping everyone else get up to speed.
Yeah. So I guess there is a silver lining here.
I suppose, yeah.
That's right. Just to finish up, I mean, as a CEO of a startup, what have you learned in this process that you would share perhaps with other founders of startups? It's been an interesting journey, and sort of taken me in a direction that I might not have originally anticipated. As I mentioned, I'm a technical guy, software engineer for a very long time, and so it's been a big shift for me to think more about the sales and marketing and sort of running a company and all the extra things that go along with that. And I think it's just partly it's just coming and getting the right people around you more than anything is what I've found invaluable. Making sure that you have a really good team and people that you can trust and rely on, and not to let your own ego get in the way too much. And if I don't know anything about marketing, for example, but I have a really great marketing guy that I trust, and if he tells me you need to do it like this, I'm like, okay, great, I'll do it like that. Really good advice. Thanks. And finally, for anybody who's listening that would like to find Zegami online or use the solution, where can they find it?
Over at Zegami.com. So it's Zegami.com. It's actually images backwards. That's how we got the name.
Oh,
so images,
that's where the name comes from.
With a Z backwards, yeah.
All right. Well.
Yeah, and so we've got our demo of our COVID collection, if you want to have a look at over there, as well as our grant application form is over on Zegami.com.
That's great. Thanks. We'll add some links to this video as well for people listening online. Anyway, well, thank you so much, Roger, for joining on this call. Thank you for everything you're doing to help with this situation, and stay safe.
No worries. Thanks, David. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.